Today our guest is Professor Borislav Agapiev, who is one of the guy who some 20 years ago, maybe even more, built his own site that promote cars. Am I right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter.
Today we can discuss about electric cars, electric vehicles, EVs. And there are few topics what can we discuss today. First is related to batteries. The highest demand for batteries of all types comes from electric car manufacturers. Am I right?
Indeed it is, yes. So because
even in the first 2 months of 2024, sales of electric cars from all manufacturers are in decline. What is the reason for this?
well, that is first of all, thank you, Peter, for the introduction and everything, and this opportunity to discuss this topic, which always has been very intriguing and of great interest to me. First of all, the topic of cars, because that has been a lifelong passion of mine, but then especially electric cars, which in the last at least 5 years, even more because of Tesla, and there's relatively sudden advent on the scene, worldwide scene. So, and it seemed until relatively recently that the momentum of electric cars here, is basically unstoppable, that they are on a path to completely take over the world, that the demise of the ICEs, that is the cars with internal combustion engines, is inevitable. Major manufacturers, including worldwide, have been announcing dates for future terminations of future development of gasoline engines, etc. Stuff like that. But I would say in the last year and a half, all of that has suddenly seemingly reversed. And lots of people are not just puzzled, but also they've been taken aback, and also lots of people are very unpleasantly surprised because they're in the process of losing billions of dollars. This is not just something which is just going to happen with no big changes. No, lots of people and industries and executives have made major capital allocation decisions, and they are basically seeing all that go up in flames.
When we see cars on the street around the world, not only in the United States but in China, here in Serbia, and as much as I saw as younger generation, as more electric vehicles and hybrid cars we can see in the street together with these guys. Am I right, or something is different? What is your opinion?
Well, hybrid cars have very interesting history. I remember that clearly because the first hybrid mass popularized hybrid car was this Prius generation 1, which was produced as a curiosity, as a technological tour de force by Toyota in 1998. And it seemed like, wow, what a concept. Now people who were into technology said, wow, this is really great because it's so efficient, it was reliable and everything which goes along with being a Toyota. Then this concept of being able to recover energy, regenerating braking, so it doesn't use brakes. You can recoup lost energy during braking, stuff like that. This is how they accomplish this really amazingly low consumption, stuff like that. Appeal to lots of technical people, but that seemed like a curiosity, even though like in 2008 there was an episode in which the price of oil spiked to even now ridiculous level. It was for a brief time over $150 US dollars per barrel, and then people say, wow, we have to go and really think about the hybrids and that. But then even that died down. So hybrids were kind of it was a cool technology, but still not something at mass adoption. But then largely politically driven, I must say, in my opinion. The world and politicians in the West especially, they said they came with this slogan, which I must say that I never believed they were really genuine about it. It was disingenuous of them. They were saying we have to worry about protecting the earth. We cannot do what we have been doing. We have to come up with net zero and all that stuff. Of course, conveniently forgetting the fact that it is exactly the West which has been for decades doing exactly the opposite, using disproportionately large amount of energy, emitting carbons and all that. But let's setting all that aside as water under the bridge. This political decision then they started creating subsidies and stuff like that. Obviously this story appealed initially to people like an early adopters of one generation and younger people who said, sure, why not? I mean, I want to participate too in saving the earth and doing the right thing. But I must say that now, as they say in the United States, the bloom is largely of the rose. Lots of people who, for instance, in last year and a half, which is actually really a stunning development, there are many people, we are talking about millions in millions in the United States, who are in a situation which is so-called underwater. Since United States, very few people, only I don't think it's few percent of people buy cars for cash. They use financing, credit. So that means that they are always worried about, and of course they typically have to have, not always, but typically have to put down a down payment. What it means is that as they're paying down their loan, which is typically 5, but now it's actually protracted to be even longer, which is typically not good, they have to be concerned with the situation, do I owe more for this car in my loan than what the car is actually worth? Because if that is the case, that's not good. Because you have something which asset which is depreciating and you own even more money to the bank. So what has happened in the last year and a half is the electric cars have lost so much value that there are tens of millions of people in the United States who are now severely underwater in this position, and basically they will have to pay out of their own pocket this difference. And we are talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. This is no small amount. For instance, if you're talking about 20 million people, which I think is it's a pretty reasonable assumption. I read that the amount is about $10,000 per car. That's absurd. We are talking about $200 billion. This is incredible.
During your last answer, we heard some airplane was our heads, and one question came to my mind. Okay, we heard that reserves for petrol are around 100, 120, 150 years. Okay, planes using kerosene, trucks using also diesel. Why pressure is on people who driving cars to be EVs? Why this pressure is not for other let's say means of transportation?
Well, the pressure is largely, in my opinion, and I don't think that's a particularly original point, is largely political. For instance, in the West, especially considering the current political situation, in which the tensions between the United States and Russia are very elevated. So then they are saying, why let's kind of put a chokehold and really try to terminate and just stop all means of Russia generating revenue as a really major worldwide energy producer. So that's one big part of it. And there are also other parts of that, but let's not go into that. But I think it's largely political. It's not really rational, regardless of the seemingly nice ideology saying you're really saving the planet and all that stuff. I'm all, let's make no mistake, I'm all for saving the planet, and I think that's a worthwhile cause. But I want to hear that from the right people who do that by their action, not just talk about it. So also, what is happening is that lots of people in the third world, and which is really apart from G7 in developed nation, they're saying, now wait a minute, you have been able to elevate yourself to your wealth and riches and all that by burning all these fossil fuels, and now you want to stick it to us in the name of something abstract of such as net zero stuff like that. So, and this game is being played out right now, I think. And I must say that we can see that EVs are losing. Now let's talk about that. This is, as you asked me a moment ago, let's maybe delve into a little bit more detail about answering the first part. Why the sudden decline in sales of EVs, which is really a shock to the lots of people in the West especially. Well, in my opinion, it has been demonstrated very clearly that they are not practical. This is the call range anxiety, they call it like that, which simply means that when you drive an electric car, regardless of the fact that advanced ones you can drive like maybe 200 to 300 miles, which is quite a bit, but you still in the back of your head, well, I am on a trip which is maybe 200 kilometers of battery, I know that there is 300 kilometers left range in my electric car, but what if something unexpected happens? What if my range meter is wrong? What if that? For normal cars, gasoline cars, that's no big deal. I just stop by any gas station and who cares? But for gasoline, for electric cars, it is not like that. I mean, maybe big part of that has been promised to all of the buyers of electric cars for years now, that by now the electric charging grids would be much more developed. There will be no reason to worry about range and stuff like that. But that is not the case at all. Like maybe 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I rented an electric car in California, which is United States, the heart of the country where the adoption is supposed to be highest. And they gave me the electric car very cheaply because people didn't want it to rent it. So I said, let's try it out just to see. And I was shocked that in the heart of California, in a mall where there was supposed to be like 15 charging stations, at least half of them were out of commissions. They did not work. The other were largely occupied. So I actually had to worry about, well, let me try to sneak in before this guy comes in. Let me see if this thing works. And by the way, the price they were charging per kilowatt hours were, I think, outrageously expensive. I mean, what was the point? I mean, they were basically taking advantage of me. So lots of people have wised up to that. The insurance for them, the insurance companies have also realized that insuring those things is very, very expensive and unprofitable for them. Also, initially they were sold, electric cars, as being very easy to repair and very reliable because they have so few moving parts, which is true. An electric car basically is a bunch of screens, huge battery, some small integrated electric motors which are sitting in the near wheels, and that's it. But no, not quite. I mean, the major sensitive points are the body. So if you ding your car in a parking lot or something, the repair is going to be outrageously expensive. Also, if the battery is typically located underneath, it has to be very well protected. If you scrape it or some stone or something hits it, then believe it or not, the price of repairing the battery is absolutely ridiculous. It amounts to tens of thousands of dollars.
In the last year, however, sales of hybrids have been slightly higher than EVs. What is the reason for that? Maybe you gave part of the answer in previous.
Well, yeah, I can answer that easily because I am in that group myself. To me, plug-in hybrids have a point themselves, but let's focus on plug-in hybrids. Plug-in hybrids are actually hybrid vehicles, which means they have both gasoline engines as well as significant batteries which can propel them autonomously for some range which is significantly shorter than common regular electric vehicles which have no gasoline engines. But plug-in hybrid have a main difference in that they have a significantly larger battery, still not as big as common electric vehicles. Like typical electric vehicle will have a battery in the range of 60 to 80 kilowatt hours, which will give it about 250 to 300 miles of on average of range. Good plug-in hybrid will have 15 to 20 kilowatt hours capacity, and that may not seem like a lot, but if you think about it, you can drive about let's say 45 or 50 miles, let's say 45 miles, which is about 60 to 70 kilometers. And if you think about it, for most people who commute daily to work and from, back and from, or do some errands to the supermarket, that's enough. I mean, you can almost drive such a car almost exclusively on electricity alone. And then they are very cheap to operate, amazingly cheap.
From other side, EVs are heavier than regular, vehicles. Their weight is between 1.5 and 2.5 tons, maybe even they have more kilograms or tons. How heavy are the batteries and how much power do they provide and how many kilometers can they travel? 3 questions are in one.
Sure.
How heavy are the batteries? How much power they will provide? They provide, and how many kilometers can you travel with these batteries?
So the batteries are very heavy, I would say extremely heavy, to the point that again, if you think about how an electric car works, it is much simpler there. It doesn't have moving parts, gasoline engine, all that. It should be lighter then. But the weight of battery alone not only offsets the gasoline engine and everything, but it actually ends up being even heavier. We are talking like for hundreds and hundreds of kilograms. This is why they are so heavy. Now there is a good side to that, which major electric car manufacturers such as Tesla and others know very well, because they are so heavy, but that weight is kind of concentrated. This is why they typically put them very low, typically beneath the floor. So that's why electric cars handle really well. Their center of gravity is very low, so the car is very stable and all that, so that's very good. But on the other hand, all that weight cannot be hidden. It has been accounted for in the suspension, in the behavior of the car, in its brakes and all that stuff, especially tires, because in addition to the added weight for tires, it is very bad because electric cars have incredible torque. In that way they are very different from gasoline cars, which cannot have immediate torque, no matter how well they're designed. Electric cars have full torque, which means power to accelerate from the basically 0 RPMs, and that puts a tremendous pressure on tires. And of course tire manufacturers know this very well, that's why they're very happy with the advent of cars. But now let's talk about the capacity. First of all, for the power, amazing thing is the power can be almost, I don't want to say unrestricted, but you can have hundreds and hundreds of kilowatts. This is why you have Tesla and not just Tesla, Mercedes and Porsche having electric cars which produce for brief periods of time like 600, 700 kilowatts. They're faster than any Ferrari or Lamborghini and stuff like that. So the power is there. Now power is only part of the picture because we have to talk about energy capacity. That means how long can you produce, for how long the period can you produce all that power. Typically for electric cars we are talking about 80 kilowatt hours, which is for a typical medium or even large electric vehicle. You can get maybe about 300 miles of range from that. Now there are some cars which have more, and they have much heavier batteries and stuff like that. So
you mentioned tires in your previous answer, and we have to know that tire manufacturers, they start to produce tires from nylon, and also the weaving is different. They don't use like in classic tires steel wires like
steel belts. Yes.
By your opinion, how this will be developing in the future?
Well, I think that indeed tires are really kind of an amazing topic because they kind of seem like a sideshow. Everybody kind of relies on their tires, but most people don't think much about them. You just buy them and rely on them. but the advances have been very significant. On the other hand, I don't think that they have been so much reinforced, and they're much stronger even now. Obviously, they'll have to make them even stronger still because of electric cars, but I don't think that will be crucial for development of all these. Basically, they will be able to follow manufacturers on that, but I don't think that it will be a very important topic there. By far, the most important topic will remain to be batteries.
When we're speaking about total amount of kilometers what we have to drive with one battery pack, what is this range? How many kilometers we can drive with one pack of batteries? Because manufacturers of EVs, they're promising that when battery expired, they will immediately change whole battery pack, and the design of the cars are based on this assumption. At the bottom is batteries, just you can immediately dismount.
Yes, this has been promised early on by some people, because the competition for electric vehicles has always been very intense, and now especially so in China, where it is almost absurd. There are dozens and dozens of major electric car manufacturers in China, but at this point I don't think that's really a viable option, because one has to realize battery, because it's so heavy, it's an integrated part of the chassis. So just being able to swap out in no time, just like that, such a major and heavy part of chassis, that it may be feasible, but such a car will be substandard. Basically, you'll have to make big compromises, in order to do that. Now I think they are going the other direction. All the major manufacturers, they are saying that they'll be using advanced DC charging systems, which are absurdly strong, because you can think about it. It's really no big secret. It's easily calculated. If you have like 80 kilowatt hours and you're claiming that I want to charge that in 10 minutes, that means that, or let's say in 6 minutes, that means that you have to charge it with the power of 800 kilowatts. 800 kilowatts is 1000 horsepower, and still it will take 6 minutes. So that's and by the way, I mean, if you try to envision how that will look like, the wire running through to charge that, it will be very thick and all that. But this is technology, all that can be handled. So I think instead of swapping out batteries, they are planning on producing really fast chargers to alleviate this issue of range anxiety like that. But at this point, this remains just a promise. I mean, most people, myself included, saying, forget about all these promises, just make sure when I go to shopping that I can find a working charger and it's not occupied by 10 people before me.
Now we'll shift to basic ingredient of batteries. Lithium is at the moment. There are several models of these batteries. Which one are the lightest? Which one charge the fastest? And which ones can cover the highest mileage?
So basically, there are several so-called chemistries, and this is a very, very hot topic. And Chinese clearly have jumped to the forefront of this technology actually very quickly. By the way, we also haven't talked much about that. The sudden advent of Chinese manufacturers, when I say sudden, we are talking about less than 2 years, they came onto the scene and became not only major electric car manufacturer, but a major battery manufacturer, because more than 80% of world battery capacity is now in China. And they are leading the world also in terms of chemistry. And there are several chemistries which are mostly lithium-ion. There are several versions of lithium phosphate, or nickel manganese cobalt. The lighter nickel manganese cobalt has a higher capacity. Also charges a little bit faster, but it's also a little bit more thermally unstable, which is not good news, because batteries have to be managed carefully, so not to basically catch fire, because such fires are very, very serious, because fire in an electric battery of such high capacity is of chemical nature, meaning that you cannot just put some water into it and it stops. No, it has to be taken care of and put out by a special means, which is now a major issue for firefighters in the world. And the lithium iron phosphate is supposed to be more economical, more stable, also has higher longevity, meaning that you can charge it and discharge it more cycles. So basically, world manufacturers are choosing between them based on the preference for the model. If I want to sell this as a sports car or something like that, then I'm going to use a more advanced battery, which is more sensitive but gives me higher performance, as opposed to something which is... But the main point is that it is amazing that Chinese have jumped to the forefront on all that, to the point that that most of the advanced battery capacity now is in China.
Couple manufacturers based on China and one university from Belgium. Last week they produced sodium-ion batteries. What do you think about that? Especially when we're speaking about the prices, lithium-ion batteries are $120 per kilowatt, and sodium ions are only $40 per kilowatt. Is the future of the batteries going to sodium ion?
The story is much more complex than that, because first of all, for more than 10 years, I would say 20 years, there have been many news about advances in chemistries and alternate means, hydrogen cars and all that stuff. Nobody's saying that those people are lying, but the point is to be able to put any kind of different technology into such a major industry, which is car manufacturing. It's a huge undertaking which takes decades. So basically what happens is that if somebody makes an announcement that we've been able to produce this type of battery, basically most people will say, well, that's good for you, sounds cute, but you have to qualify it, you have to run a reliability test, which takes years, you have to qualify production, we have to design production lines and stuff. There is lots of stuff which needs to be taken care of, and in addition to that, cost hundreds and hundreds of millions, really billions of dollars. So basically people saying that if we have the latest gizmo which is better, I'm not saying it is not true, but it will take a very long time, years, before we see which one of them will be able to prevail. And in that point of view, sodium-ion batteries are relatively mature, but they are a long way from entering mass production.
Many car manufacturers switched to electric vehicles, or they promised that they will switch next 2 or 3 years. Is this good for this move? Is this good for all of us, or is just some marketing trick, or how you explaining, how you seeing this promising of general managers of almost all companies such as Mercedes?
But on the other hand, these are commitments and promises which are being broken as of right now, and will be broken even more, because they have made major miscalculations, which is going to cost them personally, their careers and their companies, billions of dollars, and because of that somebody will have to pay, which is going to be us consumers. But and in that respect that is not good, because even though I would say that as executives running their companies, it is their job to make such forecasts. So I don't really have much sympathy for them, because look, I mean, you're being paid big bucks and big dollars to make such a judgment, and if you make a misjudgment, then the problem is with you. You have to be responsible for that. But having said that, when we go into numbers, it is incredible what kind of miscalculations those were, because for one example, Mercedes, which is one of the leading world manufacturers and a company with great reputation and all that, they have announced that the major line, this is called their EQ line, this is the special branded electric vehicles, this is kind of special Mercedes electric vehicles, which by the way look really nice. things such, models such as EQS, they said and announced they're going to shut down the line completely. This is an incredible loss of capital, incredible blunder in marketing, as they say in the United States, an egg on their face, which they have to swallow and admit, because it turns out that their entire marketing plan has been completely wrong. And by the way, hundreds of thousands of people which have bought, with their hard-earned money, for over $120,000, most of them, such cars, we will be left with cars which they cannot sell, they can hardly repair, and really nobody wants their cars. The latest news in the United States is, if you try to trade in an electric car, including Mercedes one, your dealer will not take it into trade, which is absolutely unheard of. This has never happened.
Finally, what is the future of electric cars, by your opinion?
I think they are here to stay. They have their certainly the good points, and I think they are here to stay. But the transition will be much slower, much more gradual. Also, I think there will be many more different new things, including improvements in plug-in cars and stuff like that, which are still to be invented. And they will eventually take over, but not nearly at the pace or the rapid kind of hurried program which will be now sold to up to this point. And also I think that plug-in cars are here to also stay. They are, after all, a form of an electric vehicle. You can drive them on electricity alone to a significant period. The main criticism, plug-in hybrids really sound to me amazing, because you can kind of have it best of both worlds. You don't have to worry about range. If you run out of electricity, you can just continue driving on gasoline, and you can also drive them significant times, almost all the time, if you run errands around the town or stuff like that. The main criticism of them is that because of the added complexity of the plug-in powertrain, which means the battery, some of the electric motors and stuff, what they're saying, when you run out of juice, electricity, all that weight is dead weight, which is technically true, but on the other hand, plug-in hybrids are so good in recuperating lost energy, so in that respect I think they recoup it much of the time anyway. So I drive two relatively high performance plug-in hybrids, and I think they are really very good. And maybe in 5 to 10 years I can see the time when pure electric cars will be the majority of sales, but it will not be like as rapid, nearly as rapid as we've been promised up to this point. And by the way, what I also think, the players will be very different. This is also the big shock, especially in the West, because people have been used to the notion, well, come on, so Volkswagen, major brands, Western brands such as Volkswagen, which is together with Toyota, the largest car company in the world, General Motors, Ford, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, and Japanese manufacturers, all that, it will be coming from them. No, I think that will not be the case. A significant number of them will go under. They will not be able to recuperate from these losses, and players in the 5 to 10 years will be mostly new, and I think significant number from them will be coming from China.
Thank you very much for this interview. I hope that we will speak very soon about new developments in this field.